Hey there, guys and gals. How are you? I'm telling you what, this is going to be one hell of a video. I mean, if this video doesn't go viral, I don't know what would. Because we've got Trump was right during the debate, evidence of that. What else do we have? New breaking news on Kurt Cobain. That's exciting. And world events taking place right now that nobody on the mainstream media is talking about. Let's get into it. And I'll warn you ahead of time, the very beginning of this is graphic. If you have children in the room, you may want them to leave and not hear this portion.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile with your teeth. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with it.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You call the Humane Society to see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased.
Well, if you watched the debate last night, you were told this wasn't happening. Just another example of believe the media, not your lying eyes. I don't know about y'all, but this one video is proof enough to me that this is likely not an isolated incident. These people are bringing a culture with them that we just simply don't understand. And
That's right. Now, this is one of my favorite YouTubers that I watch, Barry Step. Please go subscribe to him. He is fantabulous. Also, there was, I believe it was the Epoch Times or Epic Times, however you pronounce that, did an article today about a town in Ohio that had the very same stuff happening there. This is real, folks. This is real. Don't let them lie to you.
it doesn't appear that that culture is going to blend well with the general population here in the United States.
China has just had to urgently evacuate over 400,000 people after they were hit by one of the most powerful super typhoons in over a decade. And for perspective, a super typhoon is equivalent to that of a Category 5 hurricane. All schools in the area that it made landfall were shut, trains, boats, and flights were suspended, and all tourist attractions have been closed down. The winds near its center reached a staggering 145 miles per hour. And this typhoon has doubled in strength after it killed more than 16 people in the Philippines last week. It's now predicted to move along and hit Vietnam this weekend.
That looks absolutely terrifying. I can't even imagine being in.
Now, keep in mind, this is not being told on mainstream media, but those are sustaining winds of minimum 140 miles per hour. This was so fierce. It was totally uprooting trees, taking buildings down, taking people and their motorbikes down the damn road. I mean, this was incredible wind and torrential rain, which led to all kinds of other things. And it's not the only place on planet Earth that's having catastrophic weather right now. It's also happening in Turkey, Iran, Iraq, China. There's lots of places in China, even near Hong Kong, that are being totally flooded and wiped out right now. And they're not telling you on the mainstream news. And why is that? Why in the world would they not want to publicize all of these horrific events when they love to do that and spread the fear porn? Why would they not do that? My best guess is that maybe because we would start putting the dots together and realizing that those extra suns and moons that we're seeing in the sky have something to do with a binary star system, maybe. But what do I know? Because I'm just a podcast creator and this is just for entertainment purposes only, right?
Accidentally kill everybody. Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this type of content, I post a new one just like it every day, Monday through
Like and
Friday. It'd be
subscribe
awesome
to
if you
him
hit
and
that
me.
subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
Okay, so let me ask you now.
That actually reminds me, I wanted to take a brief moment to say let me fix my screen. Okay, there I am. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to do something really freaking far out fantabulous for all of my viewers. So don't just like these videos to help get the algorithm out there, share them far and wide, because once I get to 1,000, we're doing something really crazy cool. That's a promise. And you're going to love it. It's going to blow your damn mind.
Being very professional about this, right? Let me ask you, what is the evidence that it might not have been suicide that's claimed that he used to pop?
Overwhelmingly, the primary component of the case that I've forwarded is that Cobain did not die of a shotgun injury. A shotgun blast to the head is forms the most distinctive wound pattern in all of ballistics and forensic pathology. It's an utterly devastating injury, and yet here, what we have is a still from video showing the garage, the police detective, and the top of Kurt Cobain's head.
And though the description is very graphic, there will be no imagery that shows graphic details. But again, if you have children listening, please send them out of the room.
On the tile floor. What you see is not a single drop of blood or any other physiological matter anywhere around the head. And it's particularly disturbing to think that someone could have shot themselves in the mouth with a big bore shotgun and not suffered the typical devastating injury that occurs in every known case to have occurred prior to Kurt Cobain. In other words, the fact that this video shows no blood at the scene of the crime all around his head fairly well establishes that he probably died of circumstances which have never been described. And if that's not convincing enough, the thing you have to understand is the day after this video aired, showing no blood at the scene of the crime, the King County Medical Examiner then changed his description of the wound scenario to no exit wound. All of the shots stayed inside his skull. Therefore, little or no blood was present at the scene of the crime.
So where was this video aired?
This video was first aired on June 1st of 1994, about 2 months after Cobain died. And on June 2nd, in a phone conversation with myself, the chief pathologist of the King County Medical Examiner's office changed the description from the usual he blew his with a shotgun to, in this particular case, there was no exit wound, all of the shots stayed inside the skull, therefore little or no blood was present at the scene of the crime, all of which is completely impossible, by the way.
Where was the video aired? On your show?
That's correct.
Correct. Okay, great. Just a very quick, don't move, very quick close-up of the head. Okay.
This is a case that I've studied extensively, and this is far from the most compelling evidence. There was a chair lodged against the outside of the only exit door when they found him. There was a box of cartridges on the table next to him with only one missing. The cartridge was later found in a desk drawer and matched to the box they found initially, and the cartridge in the shotgun had no fingerprints on it, as well as, if I'm remembering correctly, the gun itself had no fingerprints on it either. There's a really good book you can read that does a great job of breaking this all down. It's called Heavier Than Heaven, and it goes through Kurt's entire life with interviews from family and friends, and then poses a alternate theory at the end as to how he was likely extinguished. I highly suggest you read it if you're a fan. It's one of the most interesting biographies I've ever read.
I'm going to show you guys.
And I don't know how many of you know very much about the Cobain story or the alleged motives for why someone would want to silence him. But there are rumors that claim that he and Chris Cornell and oh my gosh, I forget his name now. The guy from Lincoln Park. And another person, there was a fourth person that is still currently alive. The four of them were making a documentary on exposing how rampant human trafficking is. allegedly. So, food for thought, right? Or is it just another conspiracy theory?
You guys a video of something that's honestly really difficult to watch.
In this tent lives 77-year-old.
And this just breaks my heart. No one in the world should have to experience what this poor lady is experiencing. And I know that it isn't just Canadians. I personally know people in America who have been forced to be homeless in the last 3.5 years.
Judy Howe with her 80-year-old partner George, a situation she never imagined to be in. She says they had an apartment in Halifax before the building was sold and to be torn down. After that, they went to Ontario to be with George's dying mother, but they couldn't afford to stay there and chose to return to Halifax.
It's not home. You know, it's not a place you can cook a meal for yourself. You can take a shower. We go up to the Y on Park Street here. I always get lost. I'm trying to find my way out. And that's where we shower at. And you can go there every day if you want, you know. And thank God they have that service. But it's not where I want to be. I go to bed crying at night. At night I go to bed crying and I pray to God, asking him to get me out of here.
That's someone that was born, raised in Canada, worked her whole life, is in her final stages of life, is retired, and is sleeping in a tent on the street, and she's homeless. We failed her, and we abandoned her. But when we get illegal immigrants, asylum seekers, or even immigrants in general, we give them free food, we give them shelter, and we give them money. This is getting ridiculous. There's no reason on earth that woman should be on the street. It's an embarrassment, and this is exactly the thing that drives me nuts about the Liberal government. They don't care about their own. Otherwise, stories like this just simply wouldn't exist among Canadians. She has to take her showers at the Y. Shout out to the Y for doing that. That's amazing, but this is just, it's, I have no words.
With all the money the
I have words. I have words. My words are outrageous, unacceptable, and enough. It's enough. Like, we've got to turn this country and the world around. We, the people, have that power. And we, the people, should be taking back that claim. You know, in Greece, in ancient Greece, they had a law that said if they didn't like the people that were running the government in Athens, they threw them out. They fired them all. We need a rule like that. There's a whole lot of them need to be fired. Damn shame. I'm so sad for these people.
the federal government takes in, regardless of what first world country you're speaking of, stuff like this just simply shouldn't be possible. With the liberal programs for gender studies and all the other nonsensical crap that they spend money on, there's no reason any citizen of any country should be without basic shelter in a time of need. They have the funds and the means necessary to fix this. They just have no intent to do so. We literally pay them to protect us, and this is what we get in return. It's pathetic.
NASA has discovered an enormous hidden ocean underneath the surface of Mars, so big that it could contain life, if Mars ever had life to begin with. So the story behind this is that scientists are examining data from NASA's InSight lander, and they've revealed the likely presence of an underground reservoir containing enough liquid to cover the entire planet with a mile of water. That is an absolutely outrageously massive reservoir, probably much bigger than reservoirs that we have here on Earth. Of course, we have the standard picture of Mars, and these are geophysicists saying that there's a gigantic hidden ocean beneath Mars's surface, big enough where it could harbor life. So the massive underground reservoir was discovered using seismic data from the InSight lander, and they said that it's trapped inside a layer of fractured hard rock about 7 to 13 miles, which is up to 20 kilometers, beneath the red planet's crust. That's so deep that it's sort of beyond our current drilling capabilities. But
now, I'm just going to stop him right there, because actually it is not at all beyond our current drilling capabilities. I've heard plenty of testimony from engineers that have been commissioned and hired by our government to dig these deep underground bases called dumps. And they're going way deep into the earth. We have the technology to sonar penetrate through the earth to see how many layers of rock, what type of rock it is, if there's water underneath, and the depths of all of that. We have that technology. We use it all the time. Like worldwide, it is used. And third point I want to make here is that this discovery, this announcement, if you will, about the water being underneath of the surface of Mars lends credence to all of the whistleblowers that are military soldiers that claim to be part of the secret space program, including Army Corps of Engineer type soldiers who claim they've been to Mars to help terraform it, and that they live in underground bases, as well as 3 different species of aliens that live on the planet Mars, all also live underground. That lends more evidence and credence to their stories for this to be publicly announced. So keep all those things in mind as you hear the rest of what's being said, because just because I'm sharing the story with you doesn't mean that I 100% agree with everything that's being said on the other end of it. I happen to know better.
I think it would be really awesome if we discover aliens and they're underwater aliens. That would be really fun. It might even be grays underwater. Maybe that's where they're hiding. Maybe that's why they look so different, why they don't necessarily have to blink. I'm being silly. It's unlikely to be that. We'd more likely find microscopic or very simple life underneath the water. But it's important to note that even on Earth, we cannot drill 13 miles into the rock. So doing so on Mars is just beyond human beings' technological capacity at the moment, and it will be a very long time before we see if any of this comes to fruition.
I don't buy it. They can't even tell us what's at the bottom of our own oceans, but they...
Barry don't buy it, and he's skeptical, and that's okay. He don't have to buy it. I still love him. All right. Now, this next one of my younger children actually caught wind of this segment of the video when I was listening to it. So I'm going to share my conversation that I had with her after you hear this.
How far down it is, I call bullshit.
Gen Z doesn't know how to write a check. They don't know how to address an envelope. They don't know how to read cursive. They don't know how to read a paper map. They can't get anywhere unless there's a GPS map on their phone. All I'm saying is if Gen Z takes over the world, it's going to be pretty easy to get it back. We're just going to write our battle plans in cursive on a piece of paper.
My wife and I...
Now, when my daughter heard this, she actually took offense to it. And granted, the lady's a comedian, so, you know, she was making fun, so to speak, of it. But I think the real takeaway here, and my daughter's taking offense to it, was she actually said to me, we need to not have so much division between the age groups because that just creates arguments. And I'm like, well, actually, the lady wasn't trying to start an argument. She brings up very good points that our educational system and many other different directions have been failing our youth for a few generations now. And really, it started with my generation. That's when they started sort of chopping away at things and taking them away, you know. And I mean, we don't have economics, we don't have civics, we don't have shop, we don't have home ec, we don't have so many different things that were important classes that we took in school. Cursive writing's being taken away. Now they've taken Latin as the root words out of the scientific and the medical terminology. So now the kids these days are not even going to know what the original translation of the word was. And I feel like it's all part of a ploy to take away our ability to stand firm on our rights and knowing, you know, truly knowing what we can and should do to keep things steering the right direction for, you know, the right path for us as a country or even humanity at large. And so it's not a divisional thing. I mean, yeah, they can't write in cursive. They can't do all these things, right? They don't know how to write a check. They don't know how to balance a checkbook. A lot of them don't know how to tell time on an analog clock. Basic, simple knowledges. And it's not something that we're trying to make fun of or put down or create division. It's truly a travesty. And we need to space that, you know, fix that space that's between there, close that gap, and bring back those lessons and those teachings so that our future people are knowledgeable enough to continue keeping our country going in a good, positive direction for we the people. So after I explained that to her, she felt better about it and didn't feel so offended. And not that she had any reason to be offended, because I homeschool mine, so they do know cursive and they do know how to read an analog clock, and they are learning how to balance checkbooks and write a check and those. I mean, she's learning those things. She's just looking at it from, you know, her generation and the generation just ahead of her, from their perspective and how they might feel. She's the voice for all of them, which I love about her. Oh, my bad.
Now we're in a dealership yesterday looking at a new family van, and our salesperson commented on how nice my wife's handwriting was, and then offered up, "I can't read it though. I can't read or write in cursive." They never taught her in school, and this woman was at least in her mid-20s. I think they stopped teaching us intentionally because all of our founding documents are in cursive, and they don't want us to be able to read them for ourselves. That's just my theory, but I haven't heard one proposed to me yet that makes more sense than that.
Huge abduction phenomenon. It's still going on, and there's
Okay. Hold up. This one right here is like, clearly listen and pay attention to this. I have so much to say about this. I have so much to say. And he has so much to say, which is very important. So, shh.
There's a tremendous amount of genetic manipulation.
Wait a second. Is there actual ETs abductions going on right now on planet Earth?
The ETs get permission to do all that, and the U.S. government gets tech help. The other half of the military realizes the abuse that's going on, and it realizes that's not okay, and is, you know, fundamentally opposed to it.
Well, apparently they're going to turn your home safe. Do you believe some people in the government have contracts with ETs so we can exchange humans with technology?
There's basically two groups of ETs. There are many species, many subgroups, everything. But you can think of it in the most basic terms, in terms of good ETs and bad ETs. Well, the ones that offer tech transfer so they can get written permission to operate here on Earth, we call them the bad ETs. And they run this planet as a prison. It's a psychological prison, but it's still a prison. People can't escape. It's that, and you're talking about billions of people in this prison. The good ETs are fighting.
Now, I just want to stop right there, just so that we can clarify what you just said. The bad ETs are the ones running this planet and have us all trapped in a psychological prison. What's that mean? What's that mean? Oh, yeah, I remember how I've been telling all of you how we, the people, have the power to do amazing, beautiful, great things. Yeah, remember that? And how the bad ETs, they don't have any creative ability, so they have to lie to us and dupe us and manipulate us, trick us. You know, kind of like those tricksters that the indigenous people talk about in their lore, or how the devil was real sneaky and manipulative. You know, those stories in the Bible. Sound familiar? Yeah. That snake in the Garden of Eden, right? Wonder why they use the snake as a representation for these trickster bad ETs. Food for thought.
Waiting for what we call catastrophic disclosure, or sudden disclosure where all the truth comes out. They just want everything to come out. The good ETs have what I would call a fanatical adherence to the concept of free will. The issue is those UFOs that we're taking videos of are of the bad ETs. Those are not the ones that are being shot down. The ones that are being shot down are the crypt ships of the good ETs. Now you can sort of say, well, why don't the good ETs, if they're militarily dominant in the solar system, why don't they just invade? A couple reasons. First of all, there are signed written agreements between the U.S. government and some other governments allowing the bad ETs to be here. Now, the good ETs are saying, if you have disclosure, then that can change. So all they're doing is trying to say, we need full disclosure. And
let me just reiterate here what he's saying and interpret it a little bit differently so that maybe you can understand it better. What he's actually saying here is that the good ETs cannot intervene in the way that we would maybe think that they ought to, right? They can't come in guns a-blazing and wipe out the bad ETs and just save the day. They can't do that. Number one main reason they can't do that is because we have free will. Now we're being tricked and manipulated into giving up our free will at this current time by the bad ETs and the governments that are working with them that have made these agreements. And these agreements have been made all the way back to Eisenhower. They've been made. I promise you the documentation is there for you to go and look at. It is very real. So if we do a mass disclosure to where everyone, or the majority anyway of everyone, truly understands that this agreement, this treaty was made, then at that time, we can take back our power of free will and we can say, hell no, I won't go, right? You can't just take me whenever you want because somebody else said that you could. And then the bad ETs have to stop taking us because they have to have an agreement somewhere. And if the majority rule is in disagreement, that's the law they have to follow. And at that point, if they don't follow it, then the good ETs can intervene and do what needs to be done to take care of business. But it's about free will. It's always been about free will. This is why I and so many others are trying to wake you up to so many truths so that you can take back your free will and understand that you've been giving it away freely, even if it was unbeknownst to you or you were tricked into doing it. Now, a very good tip I'm just going to add to this little conversation is that if you do believe that you are being abducted by bad ETs, you can tell them you do not consent, and you can use the words Jesus Christ or my Lord and Savior or things like that, and they will leave you alone. And the main reason that they're leaving you alone at that point is because if you're speaking about Jesus Christ and his message, you may possibly know what message he was actually trying to deliver, which is the message that I have been trying to help finish for him, that you too can go do the same great works as he and more, because we are way more powerful than we have been led to believe. And once we know that, it's a game changer. 100% game changer.
And then, if you guys still want to be aligned with the bad ETs, it's your choice. And then the good ETs will literally just go away. But the bad ETs know that if there's full disclosure, there's going to be a revolution. That if the people actually find out what's really going on, there will be an uproar.
This is, how can I say it? Bizarre? I mean, I heard stories about people being abducted before. This is just like another level. So what do you think? Do you think humans are being abducted in exchange for technology?
Let's assume for a moment that this is all real and we had actual evidence to back up the claim. And there was absolutely no chance that this was misinformation or theory. Would it not basically answer every question we have about aliens? It would explain why they're here, how they're operating, what we get out of it, and why so many people of all walks of life have come forward with an alien abduction story. I'm not sure if this is what's going on, but it's been the predominant theory since I was a kid, and it still seems to be today. I think that says quite a lot.
This is really...
And I'll just add to that it would also probably explain the majority of the missing persons 411 reports as well. And could even possibly explain why no one without permission is allowed in Antarctica.
Really crazy. Macron has decided to dissolve Parliament, the lower chamber of Parliament. Well, toxic, what does that mean? Well, I will explain. Macron sent shockwaves through France with snap decision to dissolve government. Why would he dissolve the government, huh? Let's read. French President Emmanuel Macron sparked pandemonium across the French government by effectively dismantling it overnight. During the European Parliament election on Sunday, projected results began to confirm what had been expected for months. The far-right National Rally, or RN, would crush Macron's renewed. The RN, led by Martine Le Pen, 28-year-old protege of Jordan Bardella, won the elections with around 32% of the vote. Macron's coalition, led by candidate Valérie Hayer, came in second with roughly 15%, trailing by a wide margin. In the midst of an already hectic night, as votes were being tallied, Macron announced that he would dissolve France's National Assembly, the country's lower chamber of parliament. Snap elections would determine in its new composition. I could not, at the end of the day, act as if nothing was happening, Macron said in a televised address. Therefore, I will dissolve the National Assembly tonight. The decision is a massive political gamble. First of all, there have been no recent polls surveying people's voting intentions in this type of election. Then Macron risks losing even more seats in the parliament. If this happens and the RN takes the lead, Macron would be forced to hand over the domestic governing power to them. So he's trying to control parliament because they're losing the elections. But he doesn't know that's gonna more. But the bigger story at hand here is he's dismantling the government only through the sole reason or intentions behind losing the election. Why is that allowed? Isn't that like treasonous? Like, what the The question I ask you right now, straight up, is what do you think's gonna happen when Biden has to hand over his power to Trump? You're hearing words of reprogramming Americans as if we are a communist country under dictatorship. What do you mean reprogramming? And then when they say that out their own lips, it makes you think about the programming they've already done with all these Western ideologies with gender and pronouns and P3DOs. Are you guys paying attention? Can you see? This is straight foreshadowing. Peace to the God.
It does seem like what happens across the pond always trickles over here into the U.S. Fortunately, our government isn't set up like France's, so we don't have to worry about that specific thing happening here. And another fortunate outcome of this is I think it's going to blow up in his face big time. I've been watching the sentiment of the French people for a while now, and Macron doesn't have very many fans. I really feel like this is going to backfire, and he's going to lose even more control, and this is absolutely a good thing.
Could you imagine living in a world where 1,000 years have been manipulated and added to the timeline without your knowledge? So why add 1,000 years? How does that help or change anything? It changes everything. It allows 1,000 years of nonsense into the narrative. It allows cowboys and Indians. It allows doubt to creep in. It allows them to explain the St. Peter's Basilica. It allows the evolution theory to be possible to the individual that hasn't done any research of their own. It allows fake characters and fake stories. It allows Columbus to discover America, which we all know is not true. So why would any of it be true? An old world civilization was wiped out and their buildings remain.
You thought that the Renaissance was a reset.
Absolutely was.
Okay, and so are you saying it was a reset which took us away from the ancient Tartaria and put us into a new place?
And now look, I know this woman looks totally crazy with whatever's going on with her hair, but please don't discount that about what she's saying and discredit her words just because of the way she looks. Okay, don't judge this book by its cover, because its pages have some great information.
Yes, absolutely. It was either Christian, like the true bloodline, the true Christ consciousness Christians, had been living in peace for about 1,000 years. And then the feud started. It's called the feudal system came into being to slowly dig at them and start getting rid of them. And the Crusades started in the 10 something. And the Roman Catholic Church was sending out their so-called missionaries, which were really on a mission to take over the world and destroy all the indigenous people, all the beautiful people, all the creative people, anything that threatened their domain so that they would be able to remain on top. And then when Putin came along, and we don't know which Putin it is, you can go into that another day, but...
Now listen carefully, because she's talking about Putin.
He definitely had a long-term agenda, because his strategy, what you can see that he had the strategy to take out the ruling satanic elite right from whenever he was put in. Because in 2001, he established BRICS. Obviously.
I'm sorry, what did she just say?
Agenda, because his strategy, what you can see that he had the strategy to take out the ruling satanic elite right from whenever he was put in. Because in 2001, he established BRICS. Obviously, India, China, the largest countries in the world, he got them together. In 2009, they had a full-scale diplomatic meeting in Russia. And then in 2013, he releases these maps of Grand Tartaria. And then in 2016, he kicks out all the Rothschilds and the whole central banking.
Okay, let's back that up and listen. Listen again. Maps of Tartaria.
In the world, he got them together. In 2009, they had a full-scale diplomatic meeting in Russia. And then in 2013, he releases these maps of Grand Tartaria. And then in 2016, he kicks out all the Rothschilds and the whole central banking system and the New World Order system and everything else, and tells them they can never come back to Russia under any circumstances. Then, come 2021, he starts routing out the Khazarian mafia in the Ukraine and reclaiming what was probably...
Oh, and listen carefully to this Ukraine part, because this is why they kept trying to put Trump on the spot during that debate the other night.
Once Grand Tartaria. So you can see from that picture that the map release was very strategic order system and everything else, and tells them they can never come back to Russia under any circumstances. Then, come 2021, he starts routing out the Khazarian mafia in the Ukraine and reclaiming what was probably once Grand Tartaria. So you can see from that picture that the map release was a very strategic move in this ongoing game of world chess.
I apologize about that video freezing halfway through. The original video's like that, so there wasn't anything I could do to fix it. It sure would have been nice if we could have seen that map, though, because I looked online, and you know everything you try to look up about Putin right now is just buried. So I don't know what map it is that they're supposedly showing that has Tartaria on it, but I want a copy of it. Tartaria.
And for those of you that don't know about Tartaria and the mud floods to cover everything up, please do some research and learn about that, because they completely rewrote our history again.
Existed. I'm 100% convinced of that.
The best way to gain control of the most intelligent, powerful species on the planet would be to completely divide them from the love within themselves. As soon as they are old enough to begin creating an understanding of who they are, force them into a system that teaches them that it is wrong to be yourself if yourself is different from what is accepted as normal. Confuse them about their own biological makeup so that they think that permanently altering their body is the answer to happiness. Require their daily attendance at an institution that makes them focus only on the information that is provided. Make them attend that institution from age 5 until an adult and repeatedly test them on the information so that it becomes their truth. Give them an explanation to everything so that they never have a chance to make their own assumptions of the world. Scold them and humiliate them if they suggest an opinion that opposes that of their authorities. Keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were to each other in the past and broadcast how cruel they are to each other in the present. Only show them tragedies on the news so that they live in fear and think the worst of one another. Convince them that their species used to be that of an incognizant wild animal. Make them think that their very existence is so incredibly random that they lack purpose and struggle to make sense of a creator. Tell them that their kind is as smart as they've ever been so that they don't question the integrity of the system that they're in. Provide them idols with artificial beauty and use them as examples of what it is to look perfect so that they are never content with their own appearance and can't help but to compare themselves amongst each other.
Sounded like she was reading out of the federal government's playbook, didn't it?
My name is Beech, and I've got Parkinson's.
And you know what? This is the most exciting part of the whole podcast. So I hope you've stuck around this long. And if you did, thank you so much. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share these videos far and wide. Let's wake people up.
Took my speech from me, but I discovered a hack. And my friend and I built a device that mimics the tapping hack. And when I put this device on, my voice comes back. And not only does my voice come back, it reduces some of my other symptoms. And people with other autonomic conditions have found the same. And it has a profound impact on anxiety too. This thing's amazing. When I turn it off, my symptoms immediately hit me. When I turn it on, I come back. Let's get them out there as cheaply as possible and as freely as possible where we can.
And that's our good clip for the day. I came across this and did some.
I think that all of us need to go to beachband.com, and he's on Facebook, and I'm going to share his links in the description below because we need to help this gentleman get that out to the world. What an incredible device that he has come up with. And isn't that the way it goes, guys? Don't we create something new because we're forced to, because we have a real need for it? That's how all great inventions came about, because there was a real need for them. And that person was determined to find a way, just like this man with Parkinson's, determined to find a way to regain and reclaim his life through this simple little electronic mechanism that does tapping. And if none of you know what tapping is, look into tapping therapies. They're amazing. They work brilliantly. And they're not an electronic device. It's like physical tapping type therapy. But he's converted this now into an electronic device that helps his Parkinson's immensely. And I am so excited for this. I can't wait to see all of the new technologies that are going to be coming out in the next 10 years, because the world as we know it really is about to change. And Confucius was right. We live in interesting times. That's what I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again real soon. And the next podcast, we're going to clear up some misnomers about the Knights Templar and their origins. So stick around and stay tuned.